At 29, my husband's will was read. His mistress got the mansion. I got a worthless shack. When I objected, my father-in-law sneered, "Be grateful." That night I went there. What I found inside changed everything. I stand by my father's coffin and look at Violet. She is wearing a black dress that accentuates her figure even at a funeral. Tears? No, there are none. Instead, she looks around at those present, as if counting who has come to pay their respects to her great love. I'm bored by this drama. Jacob lies in the coffin with his eyes closed, and I remember him alive, the way he was 13 years ago when we met. I was 16. He was 19. I worked after school in a coffee shop near the film studio where he was an intern at the time. A tall, skinny guy with always messy hair and coffee stains on his t-shirt. He ordered a double espresso every morning at 7:30. "Are you always so serious?" he asked one day. "Are you always so messy?" I replied, pointing to the coffee stain. He laughed, and I fell in love, simply and irrevocably. The next few years flew by like a single day. Jacob became an increasingly skilled editor, and after college, I got a job as an editor at Beauty and Style magazine. We rented a small apartment and dreamed of our own house, children, and a golden retriever. "When we get married, we'll buy a big house with a garden," he said, hugging me on the couch in front of the old TV we bought at a sale. "And we'll have 3 children," I added, imagining our future. "Only 3? Let's have 5. And a cat and a dog and a hamster." I laughed at his enthusiasm. Back then, everything seemed so simple and achievable. We got married when I was 22, a modest ceremony at the city hall, then a celebration at a small restaurant with 20 of our closest friends and family. Jacob cried when I walked down the aisle in a white dress I bought on sale at the department store. His father, Robert, was there too, although he didn't approve of our choice. "It's too early," he grumbled as he sipped his whiskey. "You need to build a career first." But we didn't care. We were happy and carefree, like all young couples who believe in eternal love. The first years of marriage passed in the usual hustle and bustle. Jacob worked on big projects, often staying late at the editing studio. I was building a career at a magazine, writing articles about new trends in cosmetics and interviewing stylists. We moved into a better apartment, 2 rooms in a new building, and got a cat named Oscar. Life flowed at a steady pace. Every Saturday we went to the movies. Every Sunday we had lunch at Robert's. Jacob dreamed of his own editing studio. I dreamed of a promotion at the magazine. We saved money for a house and planned to have children in a couple of years. "Career first, then children," I said, repeating the mantra of modern women. "Uh-huh," Jacob agreed, but I could see in his eyes that he dreamed of children's voices in the house. But somewhere around the 5th year, everything changed. Jacob became colder, more distant. He came home late, citing work. He stopped talking about his day, about the interesting projects he was working on. "How's it going?" I would ask at dinner. "Fine," he would reply without looking up from his plate. "What about that new series?" "You were so excited about the script. Just work." "Nothing special." I tried not to think about the worst. Maybe it was just fatigue. The film industry is a stressful job with deadlines and capricious directors. Or maybe it was a midlife crisis. He was approaching 30. Sex became rare and mechanical. Jacob fell asleep facing the wall. When I tried to hug him, he pulled away. "I'm tired," he explained. "Maybe we could take a break together? Go somewhere for the weekend?" "I can't right now. Too much work." But on March 23rd last year, everything fell apart. Jacob left his phone on the kitchen table while he took a shower. This was unusual. He usually kept it with him, even in the bathroom. The phone beeped with a message. I glanced at it mechanically and saw the name Violet and the text, "Can't wait for tonight, darling. I'll wear that red lingerie you bought me." The world stopped. My hands trembled as I opened their correspondence. Months of messages, intimate photos, Plans to meet in hotels, words of love he once said to me, "I miss your touch, my love." Does your wife suspect anything? No, she's too busy with work to notice. Each message hit like a knife, especially the one where he described how boring I was in bed compared to her. When Jacob came out of the shower with a towel around his hips, I was sitting on the bed with his phone in my hands. "Who is Violet?" I asked quietly. He froze, towel in hand. I saw neither surprise nor shame on his face. Relief. "Finally," he said, sitting down on the edge of the bed. "I'm tired of lying." "How long?" 8 months. 8 months. Almost a year. While I was worried about his fatigue and detachment, he was cheating on me. "Where did you meet her?" "At the Neon nightclub." We were celebrating the completion of a project with the team. He spoke calmly as if he were talking about the weather. At first, it was just fun. But then what? "She's 22, Anna. She's lively, spontaneous. She makes me feel young again. And me? You're a good woman. Reliable, intelligent, but boring." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to. I read your messages." He lowered his head. "I didn't want you to find out this way." "How then?" "When would you have told me?" "I don't know. Maybe never." His honesty was worse than a lie. The next day, I met Violetta at the same club. She agreed, probably out of curiosity. A blonde with long legs and bright makeup, confident like a predator in her territory. "Are you his wife?" she asked, sipping a mojito through a straw. "For now." "I see. Do you want to talk about our relationship?" Her directness was striking. No awkwardness, no apologies. "He says he loves you." "Maybe. Or maybe he just wants something new. Men are like that, always looking for adventure." "And you don't care?" Violet shrugged, looking at her nails with bright red polish. "Men come and go. The main thing is to get the most out of them while they're around. Gifts, entertainment, money for beauty." "What about love?" She laughed. "Love? That's for romantic fools. I'm a realist." I filed for divorce the following week. Jacob didn't object. He even seemed pleased, as if a weight had been lifted from him. "It'll be better for everyone," he said. But there was a prenuptial agreement that we had signed at his father's insistence 5 years ago. Robert insisted on it, saying it was a smart move in today's world. Almost all of the property was registered to Jacob. I only got the car, an old Toyota my parents gave me for graduation, and $20,000. "Are you going to live with your mother?" Jacob asked as I packed my things into cardboard boxes. "I'll rent an apartment." "If you need help with money?" "No, I don't." "Anna, I didn't want this to happen." But it did. The year after the divorce was difficult. A small studio apartment in an old neighborhood, lonely evenings with the TV and my cat, work as the only escape from thoughts of a failed life. My friends tried to set me up on dates, dragged me to clubs and coffee shops, but I wasn't ready to trust again. And now Jacob is dead. 32 years old, too old to die, too young to live. And here I am at his funeral, looking at the woman he left me for. "Anna?" I hear a familiar voice behind me. I turn around and see Sarah Cole, my colleague from the magazine. A short brunette with kind eyes, she always supported me after the divorce. She's the only one of my friends who kept in touch with Jacob. "How are you holding up?" she asks, hugging me. "Fine. It's strange to see him so peaceful. He looked tired lately. When he called a month ago, his voice was weak." "He called you?" "Yes, he asked about you. He said he felt bad, that he regretted how everything turned out. Strange Violetta tells everyone that his death was sudden, a heart attack at work without any warning signs. The funeral service ends. People disperse in small groups, talking quietly. Violetta stands by the exit, accepting condolences, graceful, beautiful, and completely indifferent to the death of the man who was supposedly her beloved. I approach her, not knowing why I'm doing it. "My condolences," I say. She looks at me with a slight smile, as if I've said something funny. Thank you. Although I don't understand why you're here. You divorced a year ago. We were married for 13 years. That means something. The past tense, she says coldly and turns to another person offering condolences. On the way home, I think about Sarah's words. Jacob was sick a month ago, but Violet told everyone he died suddenly. Why is she hiding his illness? And why did he call Sarah and not me if he really cared? Something's not right here, and I have to figure it out. Chapter 2. The Last Words of the Dead. The funeral ended 2 hours ago, and I'm still sitting in my car near the cemetery. I watch Violet say goodbye to the last guests. She's holding herself with dignity, but I see her checking her phone several times. She must be waiting for someone more important than her late husband's grieving friends. Robert Turner, her father-in-law, approaches her and whispers something in her ear. Violet nods. Then they both look in my direction. I feel a chill run down my spine. What are they discussing? I start the car and drive home. Sarah's words about Jacob being ill are spinning around in my head. Why didn't Violet mention this? At the funeral, she told everyone the same story. He came home from work, complained of chest pains, and collapsed. The ambulance arrived in 15 minutes, but it was too late. His heart just stopped, she said with theatrical sadness. The doctors say it was stress from work. He had been working so hard lately, but Sarah had heard something different from him. Jacob had been complaining of feeling unwell and said he regretted the past. It didn't sound like a sudden death from stress. The following days passed in a strange tension. I try to focus on work. The magazine is preparing a special issue on summer trends, and I have to edit articles on sunscreen, but my thoughts keep returning to Jacob and Violet. On Thursday, the phone rings, an unfamiliar number. Anna Ryder? Asks a formal male voice. Yes. This is the law firm of Willis and Partners. We are handling the estate of your former husband, Jacob Turner. The will be read on Monday at 10 a.m. at our office. I didn't expect to be included in the will. We divorced. Jacob started a new life. But apparently, he left me something to remember our years together. On Monday morning, I arrive at the law office in the city center, a tall glass building, a marble lobby, secretaries in expensive suits, a world of money and power that I never belonged to. Robert and Violet are already sitting in the conference room. My father-in-law is in a dark suit, stern and impassive as always. Violet is wearing an elegant black jacket and a knee-length skirt. She looks like a real widow from the cover of a glossy magazine. Anna. Robert nods coldly. Robert. Violet doesn't even look in my direction. She examines her nails with their perfect French manicure. The lawyer enters, a gray-haired man of about 55 wearing glasses. Good morning, I am James Willison. We are gathered here to announce the last will and testament of Jacob Edward Turner. He opens a folder and takes out some documents. The will is dated January 15th of this year, 2 months before Mr. Turner's death. Strange. Why would Jacob rewrite his will at that particular time? The primary beneficiaries are Miss Violet Case and Mrs. Anna Ryder. My heart skips a beat. So he did remember me after all. Miss Case receives the residential property located at 37 Maple Avenue, with all the property therein, as well as a bank account in the amount of $80,000. Violet smiles contentedly. This is our former home, the one we dreamed of when we were young. Jacob bought it 3 years ago after our divorce, obviously to live with his new lover. Mrs. Ryder will receive the property at 93 Sosanova Road. I don't know that address. When did Jacob have time to buy another house? Is that all? I ask. Willison nods. Yes, except for personal belongings, which each of the heirs can take from the respective properties. Robert clears his throat. James, what is this property on Sosanova Road? A small residential house, built in the 1980s, about 100 square meters. Violet finally looks at me. I see mockery in her eyes. A shack on the outskirts, she says quietly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Excuse me? Asks the lawyer. Nothing. Just wondering why Jacob left his ex-wife some shack. Robert smiles coldly. Be grateful, Anna. At least you got something. After the divorce, you weren't entitled to anything. His words hit me like a slap in the face. 13 years of marriage, and I'm supposed to be grateful for a shack on the outskirts. Jacob probably had his reasons, I say, trying to maintain my dignity. Yeah, pity, Robert mutters. The lawyer clears his throat awkwardly. If you have no further questions, the proceedings are concluded. You can pick up the keys to both properties at the office. Violet stands up, smoothing her skirt. When can I move into the house? She asks. Immediately. All the paperwork has been completed. She walks to the door, then turns around. Anna, when are you going to go see your inheritance? There's a hint of malice in her voice, as if she knows something I don't. Tonight, I reply, even though I hadn't planned on it. Good luck, she says, and walks away. Robert is about to follow her. Robert, I stop him. Do you know what that house on Sosanova Road is? He turns back, a strange smile on his face. I know. Jacob bought it a year ago. Said it was an investment. An investment? Yeah, cheap real estate on the outskirts. He was probably hoping to rent it out. But something in his tone tells me he's lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. I can't concentrate on my work for the rest of the day. All I can think about is this mysterious house. Why did Jacob buy it? And why did he leave it to me? At 7 in the evening, I grab the keys and drive to the address. The GPS takes me through the city center, then an industrial area, then along narrow roads between fields. Sosanova Road turns out to be a dead end on the very outskirts. Old houses, neglected yards, dimly lit streetlights. Number 93 is a small one-story brick house. It looks old but sturdy. A small yard lined with pine trees. That's probably where the street got its name. I park the car and walk up to the door. The key fits easily into the lock. I press the switch. The light works. I go inside and freeze. The house is not empty. There is furniture here, old but sturdy. A sofa, an armchair, a dining table, a bookcase. There are paintings in simple frames hanging on the walls. There are indoor flowers on the windowsill that someone watered until recently. Someone lived here, or at least visited regularly. I walk into the bedroom. There's a double bed with soft bedding. There is a photograph on the bedside table. I pick it up and can't believe my eyes. The photo shows Jacob and Violet. They are hugging and laughing. The photo was taken in this very bedroom. I recognize the wallpaper and the lamp. So, they used to meet here. This was their love nest, away from prying eyes. But then why did Jacob leave this house to me and not to her? I return to the living room and look around more carefully. There are not only books on the bookshelf, but also some boxes. I open one of them. Inside are medicines. Lots of different medicines. Cardio-Magnal, ENAP, Concor, heart medications, omeprazole for the stomach. Phenazepam is a serious tranquilizer. I open the next box. More medicine, but different kinds. Fluoxetine is an antidepressant. Amitriptyline is another antidepressant, a stronger one. Zolpidem for sleep. In the third box, there are more heart medications, but in different dosages. I don't recognize some of the names. Why are there so many medications here? And why are they so different from heart medications to psychotropic drugs? I go to the kitchen. The refrigerator is empty, but there is a notebook on the table. I open it. The pages contain Jacob's handwritten notes, dates, names of drugs, dosages. December 15th, Cardio-Magnal, 2 tablets, Concor, 1, omeprazole, 1. December 16th, Cardio-Magnal, 2 tablets, Concor, 1, amitriptyline, half a pill. December 17th, Cardio-Magnal, 3 pills, Concor, 2, amitriptyline, 1 pill. The dosages are constantly changing. Sometimes they increase, sometimes they decrease. It's as if someone was experimenting. The last entry is dated January 23rd, a week before Jacob's death. Cardio-Magnal, 5 tablets, Concor, 3 tablets, amitriptyline, 2 tablets, zolpidem, 1 tablet, 5 tablets of cardiomagnol, that's twice the maximum daily dose. I flip through the notebook. On the last pages, I find another interesting entry. Violeta says the doctor has prescribed new medication. Must be taken exactly as prescribed. Violeta brought the medication from the pharmacy. She says I have to take them all at once so they work faster. I feel bad. My heart is beating irregularly. Violeta says it's normal. The body is getting used to it. I feel a chill. Violeta was giving him the medicine. She managed his treatment, and the dosage kept increasing. This doesn't seem like treatment anymore. It seems like something else entirely. I sit down on the sofa and try to collect my thoughts. Jacob was sick during the last months of his life. Violet managed his treatment, brought him medicine, and monitored his intake. The dosage kept increasing. And then he died of a heart attack. Coincidence? Or something more? I take the notebook and photograph all the pages with my phone. Then I photograph the medicine boxes, the labels, everything. If my suspicions are correct, then Violet didn't just inherit this inheritance, she earned it. And now I know why Jacob left me this house. Not out of pity or guilt. He left me evidence. Perhaps in the last days of his life, he realized what was happening to him, and he decided that the only person he could trust was the one he once truly loved. Me. I sit in the car near the shack and tremble. Not from the cold. It's a warm May evening. I'm shaking from what I just saw. Jacob's notebook with his handwriting, an incredible amount of medicine, a photo with Violeta in the bedroom. It all adds up to a picture that scares me. I take out my phone and dial Sarah's number. She answers after the 3rd ring. Anna? How are you? You sound strange. Sarah, can I talk to you about Jacob? Of course. What happened? Not on the phone. Can you come over? I'm at the house he left me. Oh my God, are you okay? Are you safe? Sarah has always worried about me since the divorce. They say a friend in need is a friend indeed, and she has proven that rule. Yes, I'm safe. It's just, something's wrong here. I'll send you the address. I'll be right there. While I wait for Sarah, I go back into the house. I turn on all the lights and look around the rooms again. Now that I know what happened here, everything looks different. In the bedroom, besides the photo, I find women's clothes in the closet. A black nightgown, a robe, cosmetics on the dressing table. Violet really did live here, or at least spent the night here regularly. I go back to the boxes of medicine. Now I look at them more closely. Some packages are empty, some are half empty. The labels show different pharmacies and different dates. The oldest prescriptions are dated August of last year. The newest are from January of this year. So Jacob started taking medication shortly after our divorce. Coincidence? Or did the stress of his new life really affect him that much? I take a few packages and read the instructions. Cardiomagnol is for the prevention of heart attacks and strokes. The usual dosage is 1 or 2 tablets a day. Jacob's notebook shows 5 pills in the last few days. Concor is a beta blocker for treating hypertension. The maximum dose is 10 milligrams per day, which is 2 tablets. But Jacob was taking 3. Amitriptyline is an antidepressant with serious side effects. It is prescribed in minimal doses and gradually increased under a doctor's supervision. 2 pills at once is already dangerous. I hear the sound of an engine outside the window. I look out and see Sarah. She parks next to my car and quickly walks to the door. Anna, what's going on here? She asks as she comes inside. Sarah is short, round, with curly hair and kind brown eyes. She is 31 years old and works as an art director at our magazine. She is divorced and raising her 9-year-old daughter, Emmy. We became friends 3 years ago when I first joined the editorial team. Look at this, I say, pointing to the boxes of medicine. Sarah whistles. My God, it's a whole pharmacy. Why did Jacob need so much medicine? That's what I want to find out. You said he called you and complained about his health? Yes. For the last 6 months, he called once a month, sometimes more often. At first, he just asked how you were doing, if you were seeing anyone. And then he started talking about his problems. Sarah sits down on the sofa and frowns. This sofa looks familiar. I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. Maybe at our house? Jacob bought one just like it when we got married. No, not just like it. This exact sofa. Look, there's a coffee stain here. I remember it. She points to a faint brown stain on the armrest. Anna, this is your old sofa, the same one that was in your living room. I sat on it at your last party. My heart skips a beat. Our last party was 2 years ago, on my birthday. I didn't know about the betrayal then. Are you sure? Absolutely. And this table is yours too. And the lamp. Anna, this is furniture from your house. I look around with new eyes. Yes, these are indeed our things. The same ones we bought together, chose in stores, dreamed about. After the divorce, I thought Jacob had sold or thrown them away. But he moved them here, to the secret house where he met with Violet. Sarah, tell me more about your conversations with Jacob. What did he complain about, she thinks, remembering. At first, he said he wasn't sleeping well. Then he started having headaches. In October, he called and said that his heart was sometimes beating irregularly. In December, he complained of constant fatigue. What was he doing to treat it? He said he was seeing doctors, that Violet was helping him a lot, finding good specialists, buying medicine. He even bragged about how caring she was. Caring. Interesting. Sarah, did he say what kind of medicine he was taking? No, but he mentioned that there was a lot of it, that he sometimes got confused about the dosage schedule, and Violet made him a schedule and made sure he didn't forget. I show Sarah the notebook. Here's the schedule. She flips through the pages and her face becomes more and more concerned. Anna, this is terrible. Look at the amount and how the dosages increase over time. I know. Now look at this. I show her the instructions for the medication, which I photographed with my phone. Cardiomagnal. The maximum dose is 2 tablets per day, and here it says 5. Conquer. Maximum 2 tablets. And here it says 3. Amitriptyline is usually prescribed at 1/4 of a tablet at first, and here it says 2 tablets at once. Sarah looks at me in horror. Do you think that... I think someone deliberately gave him the wrong doses, and that someone is Violetta. But why? Think for yourself. She's a young waitress, and he's a successful editor with prospects. Marrying him is profitable, but it's even more profitable to become his widow. Sarah is silent, pondering my words. Anna, these are serious accusations. Are you sure? No, I'm not sure. So far, these are just guesses. But look at the facts. I sit down next to her and count on my fingers. Fact 1. Jacob started getting sick shortly after meeting Violet. Fact 2. She controlled his treatment, bought his medicine, and made his dosage schedule. Fact 3. The dosage was constantly increasing and eventually exceeded safe levels. Fact 4, adds Sarah. He died of a heart attack just when he was taking the highest doses of heart medication. And fact number 5, Violet got all his money and I only got this house with the evidence. Do you think he left you this house on purpose? Maybe. Or at least he suspected that something was wrong with him. I get up and walk around the room. Sarah, do you know anything about Violetta's family? About her past? Very little. Jacob said she was from a small town and moved here for work. Her parents are dead, and her only close relative is her older sister. What does her sister do? I think she works in medicine. A nurse or something like that. A nurse. Interesting. Someone with medical training would know how to combine drugs to get the desired result. Anna, what are you going to do with this information? I don't know. First, I need to make sure I'm right. I take out my phone and open Google. I type in the name of the first drug, cardiomagnal, side effects of overdose, nausea, vomiting, tinnitus, cardiac arrhythmia. Conquer overdose may lead to bradycardia, hypotension, heart failure, Amitriptyline. Overdose is especially dangerous. May cause arrhythmia, convulsions, coma, death. I read aloud and Sarah listens with growing horror. And now, the most interesting part. Drug interactions. I find a special website for checking drug compatibility. Cardiomagnal and amitriptyline. Warning! Risk of increased bleeding and cardiac arrhythmias. Concor and amitriptyline. Warning, risk of critical drop in blood pressure. And if we add zolpidem to this, I enter the combination of 4 drugs. Critically dangerous combination. High risk of death from cardiopulmonary failure. Sarah grabs my hand. Anna, that's a real deadly cocktail. Yes, and Violet knew it. Her sister, who was a nurse, could have told her. Sierra sinks deeper into the sofa. But how can we prove it? Jacob has already been buried. There was no autopsy. There was. But it was a formal one. Death from a heart attack is a natural death. No one looked for drugs in his blood. What about these records and drugs? That's not direct evidence. Violet can say that Jacob increased the doses himself, that she didn't know, that she tried to stop him. Suddenly, an idea strikes me. Sarah, do you remember when Jacob last called you? At the end of January, a week before his death. What did he say? That he felt very bad, that he was afraid. Anna, he said he was afraid of dying. Afraid of dying? Did he say that? Yes, and he said something strange, that if anything happened to him, I should tell you that he regretted everything that had happened between you. My heart sinks. So Jacob understood what was happening to him, and in his last days he was thinking about me. Anything else? He asked me not to tell anyone about our conversations, especially Violet. He said she worries too much and shouldn't be upset. Or he understood that she was involved in his problems. Sarah, I need your help. Anything. What do I need to do? First, find out more about Violet, about her sister, how they met Jacob. And then we'll try to find evidence. Real evidence. I look at the boxes of medicine, the notebook, the photo of Jacob with Violet. If I'm right, Violet didn't just inherit it. She stole it. She killed my ex-husband to do it. What if you're wrong? Then I'm just a paranoid woman who can't accept her ex-husband's death. Sarah stands up and hugs me. Anna, you're not paranoid. You're smart and observant. And if your intuition tells you that something is wrong here, then you need to investigate. Will you help me? Of course. Jacob was a good man, despite everything that happened between you. If someone killed him, they must be punished. I put all the medicines back in the boxes. Take the notebook and the photo. Let's go. We need to take all this home and study it properly. What about the house? We'll leave it as it is. We may need to come back here. I lock the door and we go to the cars. Sarah follows me to my apartment. On the way, I think about what I learned today. Jacob didn't just die, he was killed, slowly, methodically, over months. And the killer received a reward in the form of his fortune. But now I know the truth, and I'm going to prove it. Violet thinks she's won, but the game isn't over yet. In the morning, I return to the shack alone. Sarah offered to come with me, but I want to take another look around in peace. Maybe I missed something yesterday in all the excitement. This time, I search the house more thoroughly. In the kitchen, behind the bags of flour and sugar, I find a folder with documents, medical certificates, prescriptions, test results, all in Jacob's name. The first prescription is from Dr. Miltz, a cardiologist. It is dated September of last year. Cardiomagnal, 1 tablet once a day. Concor, 1 tablet in the morning. The next prescription is from the same doctor, dated October. Increase Concor dose to 2 tablets per day. The third prescription is from November, but from a different doctor, Dr. Brennan, a neurologist. Amitriptyline, 1/4 of a tablet at night to improve sleep. December, Dr. Brennan again. Increase amitriptyline to 1/2 a tablet. January, A prescription from a third doctor, Dr. Rems, a psychiatrist, zolpidem for insomnia, no more than 1 pill. Looking at these documents, I realize that Jacob really did go to doctors, but each doctor prescribed medication without knowing about the other drugs, and whoever put it all together could have created a deadly combination. But I find the most interesting thing in the bedroom, in the bedside table drawer, a medical reference book called Drug Interactions by Dr. Peterson. On the cover is a sticker with the name Rose Case RN, a registered nurse. Rose Case, Violet's sister. I leaf through the reference book. Many pages have bookmarks, underlining, and notes in the margins. Someone studied this book very carefully. On page 143, I find an underlined paragraph. The combination of cardiac glycosides with tricyclic antidepressants can cause fatal arrhythmia even at therapeutic doses. On page 208, simultaneous use of beta blockers and sleeping pills dramatically increases the risk of respiratory arrest. These are not random notes. Someone was deliberately looking for information about dangerous drug combinations. I photograph all the pages with notes and take the reference book with me. It's important evidence. On the way home, I call my old friend Mark Hennessy. We went to college together, and now he works as a physician at the city hospital. If anyone can explain the intricacies of drug interactions to me, it's him. Anna? What a surprise. How are you? Hi, Mark. I have a professional question for you. Can we meet? Sure. What happened? I'll tell you when we meet. It's complicated. We agree to meet at a cafe near the hospital at noon. Mark hasn't changed since college. Tall, thin, with red hair and freckles. He was always an excellent student with a phenomenal memory for details. You look worried, he says, sitting down at the table. What happened? I tell him about Jacob's death, about the drugs I found in the shack, about my suspicions. I show him photos of the prescriptions and notes. Mark listens attentively, asking clarifying questions from time to time. Anna, what you're describing really looks like deliberate poisoning. These drugs in such doses and combinations can kill a healthy person, let alone a sick one. So I'm not being paranoid? Not at all. Look. He takes out a notebook and begins to draw a diagram. Cardiomagnal in large doses interferes with blood clotting. Conquer slows the heartbeat and lowers blood pressure. Amitriptyline affects the heart's conductivity, and zolpidem depresses the respiratory center. And together? Together, it's a time bomb. At first, the person feels unwell, weakness, dizziness, irregular heartbeat. Then the condition worsens, and eventually the heart either stops or starts to fibrillate. How long does it take? It depends on the dose and the condition of the body. From a few weeks to a few months. That's how long Jacob was sick. Mark, how can this be proven? It's difficult. These drugs are quickly eliminated from the body. Unless a toxicological examination is performed immediately after death, it is impossible to find them. What if there are records of use? Records are not evidence. They can be forged. We need to find the person who bought the drugs or the person who gave advice on dosage. I remember the reference book with notes. What if there is medical literature with notes about dangerous combinations? That's more interesting, especially if you can prove who made the notes. I return home with the firm intention of uncovering the whole truth about Violet and her sister. I start with social media. Violet Case's Facebook profile, 22 years old, born in Chesterfield, works at the Neon nightclub photos, from parties, trips, expensive things. Among her friends, I find Rose Case's profile, 28 years old, nurse at Chesterfield Hospital. She looks like an older version of Violet. Same blonde hair, same blue eyes, but a more serious face. In the photos, Rose is often pictured in her medical uniform. In one post, she complains about difficult night shifts in intensive care. In another, she boasts about receiving a certificate in intensive care. Someone with that kind of education definitely knows how drugs interact with each other. I dig deeper. On Violet's Instagram, I find a photo from last August. She's with Jacob at some resort. The caption reads, "With my love, finally together." August is when Jacob's first prescriptions appeared. In the comments on the photo, Rose writes, "I'm happy for you, sis. You finally found a worthy man. Worthy." Interesting wording. Rose also posted a photo in August. She is reading some medical book. I look closer. It's the same reference book on drug interactions that I found in the shack. So Rose was studying this book even before Jacob got sick. This is no coincidence. I call Sarah. I found something interesting about the Case sisters. Can you come over tonight? Sure. What did you find? I'll tell you when you get here. Also, do you know any good private investigators? Investigators? Anna, are you serious? Absolutely. I need professional help. I have a friend, Jack Morrison. He's a former cop who now works privately. My lawyer recommended him during my divorce. I write down his contact information. In the evening, when Sarah arrives, I show her everything I found today. My God, she says, looking at the photos from social media. They planned this from the beginning. It looks that way. Rose studied the reference book. Violet seduced Jacob. The perfect team. What now? Now we need to find direct evidence. Contact the pharmacies where they bought the drugs. Find out who bought them. Talk to the doctors. You can't do it alone. You need to bring in a professional. The next day, I call Jack Morrison. His voice is hoarse and tired. "The case about the husband's death?" he asks after I briefly explain the situation. This isn't the first time a young wife has inherited money after her husband's mysterious death. So this happens? More often than we'd like, especially if the wife has connections in medicine. We agree to meet at his office tomorrow at 10. Jack Morrison works in a small office in a business center. He's a man in his 50s, gray-haired with attentive gray eyes. On the table are photographs of him in police uniform, awards, diplomas. 30 years in the police, he says, noticing my gaze. The last 5 in the economic crimes department. I've seen it all. I show him all the evidence I've collected. Photos of the drugs, the notebook, prescriptions, the marked-up reference book, screenshots from social media. Jack studies everything carefully, occasionally making notes in his notebook. "It's an interesting picture," he finally says, "but the court won't accept it. We need direct evidence." What kind? First, we need to prove that Violet or her sister bought the drugs. Second, we need to find witnesses who saw her giving him the drugs. Third, we need to confirm that she was the one who changed the dosage. Is that realistic? It's difficult, but possible. Let's start with the pharmacies. Every pharmacy keeps records of prescription drug sales. If Violet bought drugs with Jacob's prescriptions, it's on record. How do we get those records? Officially, only with a court order. Unofficially, he smiles. I have some connections. How much will it cost? My rate is $200 a day plus expenses. We'll need about $3,000 to start with. It's a lot of money, but there's no other way. It's a deal. Where do we start? With the pharmacies. There are 2 near the club where Violet works and 1 near their home. It's logical to assume that she bought her medicine there. And then we'll try to find witnesses. Neighbors, colleagues, friends. Someone might have seen her caring for Jacob when he was sick. Jack spends the next 2 days gathering information. I try to focus on work, but my thoughts keep returning to the investigation. On Thursday, he calls. There's news. Good and bad. Let's start with the good. Violet did buy medicine for Jacob. 3 pharmacies have records of selling drugs on his prescription, but with her passport details. And the bad news? Formally, it's not a crime. A wife has the right to buy medicine for her husband, but she's not his wife. They weren't married. Common law marriage, legally, it's almost the same thing. My heart sinks. Are all our efforts in vain? But there's another interesting detail, Jack continues. The pharmacist at one of the pharmacies remembers Violet. He says she often asked about the dosage, about whether it was possible to increase the number of pills. And what did they tell her? That she should consult her doctor. But she insisted that the doctor had given her permission. Can we use that? As an additional argument, yes. But we need more. What else? I found the phone number of one of the doctors, Dr. Miltz. He agreed to talk to me informally. And he says Jacob came in with a girl several times. She was very involved in the conversation, describing his symptoms instead of him. Miltz didn't like that. Why? He said the patient seemed confused, as if he didn't understand what was happening to him. And the girl was too confident in what she was saying. That's better, but it's still not enough. Jack, what if we find another victim? What do you mean? What if Jacob isn't the first? What if Violet has done something like this before? Jack is silent for a few seconds. Interesting thought. I'll have my contacts check her past in more detail. And I'll talk to Jacob's colleagues. Maybe someone knows something about her previous relationships. Okay, let's meet tomorrow and sum up the results. I hang up the phone with new hope. If Violet did this before, there must be traces somewhere. And traces can be found. It's just a matter of time. How much time do I have left before she realizes I suspect her? Jack calls the next morning earlier than usual. Anna, we're in luck. I found a previous victim. My heart leaps. Tell me. Robert Chandler, 58 years old. He died a year ago in Chesterfield of a heart attack. He was married to a young woman named Emily, but that's an alias. Her real name was Rose Case. Violet's sister? She herself. After her husband's death, she received $200,000 in insurance money and the house. Then she sold everything and moved here. And the cause of death? Heart failure. But what's interesting is that they also found large doses of heart medication in his blood. The doctors explained it as self-medication. Can we get the medical records? I'm already working on it. But the main thing is that there is a witness. Chandler's neighbor remembers how his young wife looked after him very closely. She bought the medicine herself and gave it to him herself. The picture is becoming clearer. The Case sisters worked as a team. Rose chose the victims and developed the treatment, and Violet carried out the plan. Is that enough to go to the police? Not yet. But it's enough to open a case. We need to file an official report. Then let's go. At the police station, we are met by Detective Kira Regis, a woman in her 40s with short hair and a keen gaze. A possible murder case, she asks, looking through our documents. Yes, we believe that Violet Case deliberately poisoned my ex-husband. Detective Riggs listens carefully to our account, looks at the photos, and reads the medical reports. It's an interesting case, she finally says, but very difficult to prove. What needs to be done? First, an examination. We need to exhume the body and conduct a toxicological analysis. How long will that take? A few weeks. Then, if the analysis confirms poisoning, we'll gather evidence for court. The next few weeks pass in agonizing anticipation. I try to work, but my thoughts keep returning to Jacob. What were his last days like? Did he understand what was happening? Did he suffer? Violet doesn't suspect anything yet. She continues to live in our former home and posts photos on social media. In one of them, she is wearing an expensive dress by the pool. The caption reads, "Life is beautiful." Her carefree attitude makes me sick. 3 weeks later, Detective Regis calls. Anna, the results are in. Can you come in? At the station, she shows me the examination report. Traces of all the drugs that were in the shack were found in his blood. The concentration is several times higher than therapeutic levels. Does that mean poisoning? Definitely. What's more, the expert says that such a combination and dosage could not have been accidental. And what next? Next is arrest. Tonight we will detain Violet Case. Violet is arrested at 7 in the evening. I watch the news and see footage of her being led out of her home in handcuffs. She looks stunned, trying to hide her face from the cameras. The The next day, all the newspapers write about the poisoner case. It turns out that the police have simultaneously opened a case into the death of Robert Chandler in Chesterfield. Rose Case is also arrested. It turns out that after Jacob's death, she moved to the city and got a job as a nurse in a private clinic. Apparently, she was looking for a new victim. Preparations for the trial take 6 months. The lawyer assigned to me by the state is Michael Grace. He's about 35 with dark hair and brown eyes behind glasses. He is serious, neat, and has a reputation as a brilliant lawyer. The case is complicated, he says at our first meeting. The defense will argue that Jacob increased his own medication doses. How will we refute that? With testimony from doctors, pharmacists, medical experts, and most importantly, with the Robert Chandler case. 2 identical crimes are no coincidence. Michael turns out to be not only a good lawyer, but also a pleasant person. He patiently explains all the legal intricacies to me and supports me morally when I panic. "You are a strong woman," he says once after a particularly difficult preparatory session. "Not everyone could go through this and not break down. Sometimes it feels like I'm about to break down. But you don't break down. You fight for justice. That's worth a lot." The trial begins in February. The courtroom is packed with journalists and spectators. Violet sits at the defense table in a modest dark suit. She looks young and vulnerable. Her lawyer, Richard Stone, is an experienced professional who specializes in high-profile cases. "My client is innocent," he declares in his opening statement. "Violet Case is a young woman who sincerely loved the deceased and did everything she could to help him." The first few days are devoted to technical evidence. Doctors talk about the effects of drugs. Experts explain the results of tests. The most important moment is Dr. Miltz's testimony. "Jacob Turner came to see me with his girlfriend," he says. "The girl was very active, answering questions for him." "Is that normal behavior for a caring partner?" Michael asks. "No, I was alarmed by the fact that the patient seemed confused. It was as if he didn't fully understand what was happening to him." "And the girl?" "On the contrary, she was very confident. She described his symptoms in detail and insisted on increasing the dosage." The defense attorney tries to discredit the testimony. "Dr. Mills, couldn't it be that Miss Case was just worried about her partner?" "Perhaps. But usually, sick people know their own feelings best." The next witness is a pharmacist from a pharmacy near the club. "Violet Case often bought medicine," she says. "She always asked about the dosage, about whether it was possible to take more pills." "And what did you tell her?" "That she should consult her doctor." "But she said the doctor allowed it." "Did she seem concerned about the patient's condition?" The pharmacist thinks for a moment. No. More like interested, as if she were conducting an experiment." The climax comes with the testimony in the Robert Chandler case. The detective from Chesterfield recounts similar circumstances surrounding the death. Rose Case, then known as Emily, also controlled her husband's treatment. She also asked pharmacies to increase the doses. Michael shows the court photos of 2 medical reference books, the one I found and the one seized from Robert Chandler's house. Both have the same markings on the same pages. "This is no coincidence," he says. "This is the handwriting of a serial killer." On the 4th day, Violet is called to testify. She swears to tell the truth, but I can see her hands shaking. At first, she holds her ground confidently. She talks about her love for Jacob, about how she tried to help him. "Did he really take a lot of medication?" Michael asks. "Yes. The doctors prescribed it." "And who monitored his intake?" "We did together. Jacob often forgot, so I reminded him." "Reminded him? Or did you give him the medication yourself?" "Sometimes I did. He was very weak." "How did you know the correct doses?" Violet hesitates. "I read the instructions." "Only the instructions?" "Well, I also consulted with my sister. She's a nurse." "So Rose Case gave you medical advice?" "Yes, but—" "And who told you to increase the doses?" "Jacob asked me himself. He said it wasn't helping." Michael moves closer. "Violet, do you know Robert Chandler?" "No." "Never heard the name?" No. Do you know that your sister was married to a man named Robert? Maybe. And that he died of a heart attack after taking large doses of the same drugs? Violet turns pale. I don't know anything about that. What about the medical reference book with notes? The one we found in the shack? That's my sister's reference book. She forgot it. Forgot it? Or did she leave it there on purpose for dosage consultations? I don't know. Michael returns to his desk and picks up a folder. I have records of phone calls between you and your sister. Would you like me to read them out? Violet looks at her lawyer. He whispers something in her ear. These conversations were recorded illegally. Stone objects. The recordings were made with the court's permission. The judge replies. Continue, Mr. Grace. Michael opens the folder. A call from January 15th. Violet case. He's still alive. Maybe we should increase the dose? Rose case. Calm down. Another week and it will all be over. Someone in the courtroom gasps. Call from January 20th. Violet. What if he figures it out? Rose. He won't figure it out. He's too weak to think. Violet clutches her chest. Call from January 22nd. Violet. I'll give him the last dose tomorrow. Rose. Go ahead. We'll split the money after the funeral. Enough! Violet shouts. Enough! She stands up, her face contorted. Yes, we planned it. From the very beginning, Rose found Jacob and I seduced him. The lawyer tries to stop her, but she doesn't listen. He was so trusting, so naive. He believed my every word, and when he started to suspect, it was too late. Violet, stop it, Stone shouts. No. Enough lying. Yes, we killed him. And Robert, too. And we would have found our next victim if that bitch hadn't gotten in the way. She points her finger at me. There is commotion in the courtroom. The judge bangs his gavel. Order in the court! Violet is led away by the arms. She shouts something indistinct, struggling with the guards. The court hands down its verdict a week later. Violet case. 25 years in prison for murder with mercenary motives. Rose case gets 20 years for complicity in 2 murders. After the trial, I inherit not only the shack, but also the house on Maple Avenue under the Crime Victims Compensation Act. I sell both properties and get enough money to start a new life. I move to Portland, 1,000 miles away from this city with painful memories. I get a job at the PR agency Brown and Partners. I rent a cozy apartment in a historic neighborhood. Michael helps me with the move and paperwork. After the case is closed, we continue to communicate. How are things in the new city? He asks when he calls a month after my move. Better than I expected. The work is interesting. My colleagues are nice. And your personal life? I laugh. Michael, are you flirting with me? What if I am? That's very unprofessional of my lawyer. The case is closed. Technically, I'm no longer your lawyer. He comes to Portland 2 weeks later. We spend the weekend together, going to a museum, eating at a restaurant, walking around the city. You've changed, he says over dinner. In what way? You've become stronger. More confident? It's true. The hell I went through changed me. I am no longer the trusting girl who allowed herself to be manipulated. I am no longer afraid to be alone, no longer dependent on other people's opinions. You see, I say to Michael, I used to think that the worst thing in life was to be alone. It turns out the worst thing is living with someone who betrays you. And now I know I can rely on myself, that I am capable of fighting for the truth, that I won't break, no matter what happens. Michael takes my hand. That's a rare quality. It came at a high price. The best qualities always come at a high price. We are not rushing into a relationship. I'm learning to trust again, and he's giving me time and space. Gradually, our friendship grows into something more. A year later, Michael moves to Portland. He opens his own law firm here. We buy a house together. Small, cozy, with a garden. I never thought I'd be happy in the suburbs, he says, planting roses. And I never thought I'd be able to trust anyone again. And now you can? I look at him. His attentive eyes, his reliable hands, his sincere smile. Now I can. It's been 2 years since Jacob's death. Sometimes I still think about him, about our past together, about how things could have been different, but without bitterness or regret. Just as part of my story, the pain made me stronger. Betrayal taught me to value honesty. Loneliness showed me that I can rely on myself. And now, sitting in the garden near our house, watching Michael play with our new puppy, I realize that sometimes life falls apart in order to be reborn better. Jacob wanted to feel young with Violet, but true youth is not the young age of a partner. It is the ability to start over, to believe again, to love after misfortune. And in that sense, I am younger now than I have ever been.